So you're gearing up for a major competitive exam. You already know it's an intense journey, right? It's so much more than just memorizing facts. It's a real test of your endurance, your focus, and your mental strength. That's why we've put together a kind of psychological toolkit to help you not just survive, but actually master this marathon.
But let's just take a step back and ask a really basic question. Is this whole thing you're going through, is it really just about passing a test?
No way. It is a mental marathon. And just like any marathon, your success is going to depend just as much on your psychological prep as it does on all that training and studying.
So, to help you run this race like a pro, we're going to break down 5 essential psychological keys: where you are in your life right now, getting to know your own personality, the incredible power of habits, what's really motivating you, and finally, your environment and your health. First up, your current life stage. This is so important because, believe me, where you are in life dramatically changes how you're going to tackle this challenge. We're going to use a model from the psychologist Erik Erikson to help understand how your personal world shapes your preparation. So Erikson laid out these 8 stages of development, and each one has its own unique challenge. Now, they're all important, of course, but for most people taking these kinds of high-stakes exams, you're probably going to fall into one of 2 main periods: early adulthood or middle adulthood. Okay, so what does this actually mean for you? Well, if you're in early adulthood, you're likely wrestling with intimacy versus isolation. How do you build and maintain those deep relationships when studying demands so much of your time alone? And if you're in middle adulthood, the big one is generativity versus stagnation. You're trying to build a legacy, but you might feel stuck. So take a second and just ask yourself, how is my current life stage really affecting my study-life balance? Next, let's get into your psychological blueprint, your personality. Understanding your own stable patterns of how you think and act is absolutely crucial. And for this, we're going to use the Big Five framework. It's a super solid, scientifically backed way to map it all out. First is openness. This is all about your curiosity, your imagination. If you're high in openness, you just love exploring new ideas. But here's the catch. That can make repetitive review feel, well, really boring. So your strategy has to be about finding new, creative ways to go over old material. Next up, conscientiousness. And this one is a huge deal for exam takers. This is basically your level of discipline and organization. If you're naturally high in this trait, you probably find it pretty easy to create a study plan and stick to it. If you're a bit lower here, that's okay. It just means that building strong habits is going to be absolutely essential for you. Then we have extroversion. This trait is all about where you get your energy. Extroverts, you get recharged by being around people, right? So those long, lonely study sessions can be totally draining. Introverts, on the other hand, might actually love that quiet solitude. Look, neither one is better than the other. The key is to build a study environment that actually fuels you instead of draining you. All right, next up is agreeableness. This really reflects how compassionate and cooperative you tend to be. If you're a highly agreeable person, you might find it really hard to say no to friends or family, and that can totally eat into your study time. The trick is learning how to protect your schedule without feeling like you're letting people down. And finally, there's neuroticism, which is really about emotional stability. Now, this word sounds a little intense, but it's not about being neurotic. It's just about your natural tendency to feel things like stress and anxiety. So if you score higher here, managing your exam stress with things like mindfulness or exercise, well, that becomes an essential part of your prep, not just some optional extra. Okay, our third key is the absolute game changer: the power of habits. Habits are just those automated behaviors you do over and over without thinking. And they can either be your greatest ally, making studying feel almost effortless, or they can be your biggest enemy. So let's talk about how to make them work for you. So, how do you actually break a bad habit, like, say, procrastination? Well, here are 5 strategies you can try. First, substitute it. When you get that urge to scroll on your phone, just open your notes instead, even if it's just for 1 minute. Second, repeat that new behavior over and over until it starts to feel natural. Third, get away from the trigger. If your phone is the problem, put it in another room while you study. Fourth is something called habituation. You expose yourself to the trigger in tiny doses without giving in, and over time it loses its power. And finally, you can add a small negative consequence, like maybe you put $1 in a jar every time you procrastinate. The whole idea here is to consciously redesign your daily routine. Now for key number 4. Let's talk about the engine that drives this entire marathon: your motivation.
This is that internal fire that gets you started, keeps you going, and pushes you all the way to the finish line. But not all motivation is created equal. You see, there are two types of motivation fueling you. Extrinsic motivation is about the external reward, getting the job, seeing that good grade. It's a powerful way to get started, but it can burn out. Then you have intrinsic motivation. This comes from within. It's the genuine joy of learning something new, the satisfaction of finally mastering a tough concept. For a long haul like this, it's that intrinsic drive that will keep you going when that finish line feels a million miles away. Finally, our fifth key is a super important reminder that your success isn't just an internal game. Your environment and your health, which are shaped by what the World Health Organization calls sociocultural factors, play a massive role in all of this. So let's break that down. Your economic level, for instance, might decide whether you can afford healthy food or have a quiet, safe place to study. Your education level gives you the tools to know how to manage stress effectively. And your social support system, your family, your friends, they can be the lifeline that gets you through the absolute toughest days. And to see just how powerful these factors can be, just look at this data from the Pan American Health Organization. It shows this staggering link between how much money someone has and major health outcomes. Now, of course, this is a pretty extreme example, but the principle applies directly to your preparation. Things like economic stress or not having a good support system, they directly impact your well-being and your ability to perform at your best. Acknowledging this isn't about making excuses. It's about building a realistic and sustainable plan that works for you. So let's pull it all together. Your psychological toolkit includes understanding the unique challenges of your life stage, using your personality traits to your advantage, consciously building good habits, nurturing that internal motivation, and recognizing and managing the environmental factors around you. Each of these is a powerful tool to help you succeed. Look, this isn't just some interesting theory. This is a practical guide for your journey. So as we wrap up, I want you to think about your own preparation right now. Knowing these 5 keys to psychological success, which one are you going to focus on strengthening first?